Good day, friends. Thank you tonight for joining us for the podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. Glad you came out today, and it's good to have you again here tonight. We discuss a litany of different topics. It includes religious situations, issues, abuse, and recovery. That's our main focus here. This live platform offers counseling sessions, meaningful question and answer, and a counseling continuum. Our staff includes Miss Lolita. She does our programming, and Miss Tennille does a technical part. We have another 8 people who are supporting and work with us, and we thank God for them. And my name is Prince, a licensed counselor, founder of Antioch Youth Center, retired. So, again, glad to have you out this evening for this live podcast. I want to thank our viewers again. I know I'm redundant in saying that, but we're just glad to have you out again. And last week we had 131 only on the YouTube. Our technical director has expanded our audience. We're now on iHeart, Stitcher, Amazon Music. We're on Pandora Review, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, Twitter, Podbean, Facebook, Podcast Addict, Poddash, and there's some more, but we're glad to be on those. And again, I just checked the stats on the YouTube, 131. I've not checked the other 6 or 8 of them. So we're glad to have you with us again today. So tonight we got a special guest, but I'm going to hold that thought for a moment and let you know that you can call in tonight if you want to be a part of this tonight's broadcast. You can call 1-866 538 3664. That number again is 1-866 538 3664. We do have a Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches counseling line, and that number is 478 283 9093. 478 283 9093. You can also contact me by email, and that's REEEEECHONE at AOL.com. Again, that email number is REEEEECHONE at AOL.com. I trust you do tonight want to chime in on the broadcast. That can also be done by going to YouTube. You can type in Church of God in Macon, Georgia, and you'll see the live banner there. Friends, the opinions expressed on this podcast not always reflect the views and ideas, proclivities of the staff people here. Be advised, some of the content is sensitive, and it will allow some listener discretion. But make no mistakes, I want to be clear about the podcast. I'm talking for the staff here also, too. Our main focus is just 3 things: to implement and sustain healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness within the Church of God. So please join us in being a minister of reconciliation. So I come back, I regress about our guest tonight, and we've got along like 2 peas in a pot, so to speak. He's here again from last week. Brother Johnathan Burton, glad to have him here. He's a minister also, too. He's a PK son, business owner, exclusive cabinets there in California. And of course, you might know his sisters, excellent harmony. In fact, we do outside meetings each week, 4 of them in the city of Macon, and we play those cassette tapes, and they do a full 90-minute, and it's just wonderful. I mean, the quality of it, of the tape, and also the harmonies, just, you can't beat it. They were a definite blessing. I think we all know that. So we're glad to have him here tonight. He's a father, a husband. He's going to share with us tonight about some of his activities. Also, he does seminars in family issues. We're going to hear about that also, too. And, of course, the exciting Burton outreach in October. I want to hear about that. So we have a lot to cover tonight. And, again, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Want to go into the questions. But first of all, Brother John, hello. Glad you're here tonight. Let's give him a hand that we're thinking that he's here.
Hello. How are you guys? Thank you.
Good to have him here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Again, if you want to call in, friends, hurry up. The time goes by so quick. You can dial that number and feel free to call in on our YouTube. You can also connect us with it. Brother John, I'm going to hit a couple of questions from last week, going to some new things, but just to hit the high points from last week. When separation occurs in a church, how does it affect the children? When separation occurs in the church, how does it affect the children?
It's very traumatizing, to be honest with you. If you hear people who are, in their 40s and 50s, it lets you know how it really affected them, because at 50 years old, they're still talking about things that happened when they were 8, 9, and 10 years old. So that gives you a pretty wide range of how impactful it really was and is on their lives.
I was in a church split when I was it happened right before I was born. So I got the backlash of it from 12 years old up, and it was devastating. They called the police out, et cetera, et cetera. So I can definitely connect with what you're saying. Another question. What are the emotional effects? You mentioned one person that were actually seeing counseling because of a church issue. Tell us a little bit more about that, if you would, please.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were actually diagnosed with PTSD. They're on medication. They're seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist on a regular basis, simply because they're just trying to figure out how to cope with that trauma. What did I do wrong? What happened? What's wrong with me? What did I do? I mean, all the things that I learned and I was taught didn't exemplify what's happening to me. We were taught to love, and we were taught all these wonderful things in church, and these were our family and friends. And then to see this really dogmatic, like almost hatred, it's like, what did I do? Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest traumatic experiences that they feel, because there's just this, how can you tell me to love someone and then you treat me so bad because we don't agree on something? And I think that's where the trauma comes in a lot of cases.
All right. After we got off the air, you said something that was quite poignant about divorce and remarriage in your own home. Tell us about that. I've been on edge for the past 7 days. So I want to hear about what happened in the home and how y'all got back together, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, it was back in the day. I mean, I got married very young, and we ended up literally getting a divorce. I mean, a full-on divorce, where our divorce papers and our remarriage basically papers kind of passed in the mail, and it was a 7-year tenure. But here's what I found out about that in divorce situations,
yes, primarily
the thing that I realized in it was that it all falls on the shoulders of the man. Okay. True. Not for everybody. I'm just going to point to me first. You've heard the sound, you heard the saying, if you water your own grass, the grass on the other side doesn't look as green as if you water your own grass. Mm-hmm. That's a true statement. And I was one of those people who neglected certain things in my marriage. Mm-hmm. And one of the things was I neglected my post that God put for me, which is to stand your post that you do not allow stuff coming into your house.
Sure.
And we can let it in by radio, TV. There's all kinds of ways that it can come in, your own attitude, friends, people that you associate with. Make a long story short, we got divorced. But when I got divorced, the Lord, he challenged me. I thought I was going to just be able to get divorced and just move on. I'm going to find me someone else, and everything's just going to be all hunky dory. He says, you don't pass to the 3rd grade until you pass the 2nd grade test. Let's just be real.
That's true.
And so I said, why? Because you are the common denominator of the entire problem. So wherever you go, you're going to end up having the same results. So true. For me, I said, okay, Lord, show me me. Show me me. And that's what he did.
Well, statistics indicate that second marriages divorce double the rate of first marriages. So it doesn't help to get married again. What effect did it have on the children? Were they affected when mom and dad broke up?
Absolutely. And it was funny. This is the crazy part, because me and my wife never spoke at all for 5 years. Not even hello, nothing. And when we changed our kids out and everything, it was like you put them in the car and you drive away. It was never any type of exchange of anything. And but what I did was I went and got my kids. That's one thing I did. I moved all my boys in with me. The ones that were smaller, I got them on certain days, but I wanted to be with my kids. That's one thing I refused to allow another man to raise my kids.
Sure.
And
sure.
as a result of that, we coming back, moving very fast forward, because I know we don't have so much time, but
Sure.
I remember it was Christmas, and my son was born on a Christmas day.
Wow.
And we hadn't seen each other in like 6 years, 7 years. And we decided that we were going to do something for his birthday. And at that time, when we came together as a family for the first time, my kids saw mom and dad together in the same place. And we decided to drive up to the mountains. And I remember looking in my rearview mirror and I seen my two oldest boys with their hands up like this, like, how is this happening? Where does this come from?
Wow.
And it made me realize that I had a job to do. And what the first thing I had to do is I had to eat crow. I don't know if you know what a crow is. Crow is a nasty bird. It eats all kinds of nasty stuff. And so I had to go order up a couple bowls of crow soup. Crow soup with no salt. I tried to put everything on it to try to make it taste better. And it was literally just take the responsibility. And that's what I did.
Wow. I really commend you for that. My gracious.
Yes.
And friends, we're talking about divorce, but also there's a linkage between divorce in the church and divorce in the home. They're very, very similar. I mentioned last week how I was doing some work with one of the doctors here in town and how similar the effects of divorce, no matter what the environment is, especially in the church. The word divorce means to cut off, have disunion, and separate. And so what we're seeing in many of our young people, when these things happen, there's a level of anger there. I'm sure, Brother John, were the children angry at the situation when mom and dad broke up?
They express it now that, that they weren't really happy about it. And I could see things in their grades. I could see things in their in some of their demeanors. My one son, he just really went into a very dark place. He was listening to all kinds of crazy music and just stuff that was really affecting his mind. But I had to pray over them, and I had to pray that God would protect them through our mess. The things that we caused them. It wasn't their fault. And so he did. He really did. And we're back together as we kind of, like I said, we passed our divorce papers and our stuff passed in the mail, and we accepted the fact that we still really loved each other.
Amen.
And it was worth us. We had a family, and it was worth us putting it back together.
Very
Friends,
good.
at this point, we are Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches live podcast. And I want you to remember that if you've been disenfranchised, wounded, or hurt, you've not been forgotten about. We do face things in life in the church, but amen, we're here to support you. We're not a church, but we're just reaching out to you to see that you heal and get forgiveness and get reconciled back. And if you haven't been to church, go back to church. Come back to God, even tonight, because tonight is your night to get what you need: reconciliation, healing, and forgiveness within the church. Do we have any questions for our listeners?
We sure do. Mr. 313 asks, Johnathan, did you and your wife kind of pick up where you all left off?
When you say pick up where we left off, there were some things that we had to figure out how we were going to do this. And I'll have to say, things were not on my part. if you look at me today as a man of God and ministry and all that, sometimes it gets clouded by some of the things that you caused. Here's what we were talking about. We're talking about wounded heart, wounded churches. The thing is I had a responsibility in the damage that I did, and that's the same thing that happens with the church.
It's true.
You do certain things, you have to go back and fix that. You have to be the one that is willing to apply the ice because you're the one that caused the damage. And a lot of times we want to turn a blind eye, but I think that's one of the things that I had to do, and that's why things were a little bit different, because I had to take responsibility.
Brother John, as you talk, I know a lot of young people that are going through these things right now. It's kind of emotional for me. So I talk to them, deal with them. And again, there's a level of anxiety there. There's a trauma there. And many go into other sexual behaviors because of it. And of course, they give up worship. And some, Church of God, nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. Listening even tonight about that. So I commend you. It's going to take God, the Holy Ghost, to guide us through these things. But I do want to continue. All right. Tell us about the Burton outreach. What is that all about? I'm hearing about it. Give me the inner workings of what that is all about.
Well, it's an extension. It's a branch of what we've been talking about. Wounded hearts. We say wounded churches, but it's this wounded hearts, wounded souls. People who are, and I believe that have just been just hurt all the way around. And we're using Burton and the Burton family and the Burton singers who brought so many people together on so many levels. And we thought this would be a great tribute to Mom Burton, who just had the heart for people. And so we're basically doing a reenactment, something that we were just doing we're talking to my brothers and sisters where it all started on 2535 Lexington Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, in a little yellow house. And I remember those times when we go down in the basement to invite the young people over, and we'd have a blast. And then we moved that over to 266 South Douglas in Springfield, and in a much bigger house. We had a lot bigger groups of people. So we realized those times were healing, because we got to sing, we got to love on people, we got to share, and we could put all those other issues aside. Church split ups, what we believed, what we didn't believe, all these different things we're able to put aside. Why? Because we were unified in music. The music is what unified us.
Sure.
And as you know, Brother Prince, as you just mentioned about the harmonies of the Burtons were, and I'm not beating my own horn here, but the harmonies of the Burton family was so unique that it really blessed you to hear how unified their tones could really be.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
And so now we take that and say, not only our voices can be unified, but also we could be unified in spirit. And that's what the whole idea of the Burton gathering is. The Burton family gathering, get together, is what that's called.
Now, do we have a link to that, Mr. Neal?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. It's in our, if they look in the description box, whether they're on the YouTube page or our Facebook page, we have the link to that particular event in the description box.
Now, friends, again, our time is almost gone. You may want to type in the YouTube Church of God in Detroit, Church of God in Macon, Georgia, the live banner, or call in. That number is 1-866-538-3664. John, what are those dates? What are those dates it's going to start?
21st through the 23rd. And it's a Friday night. We're going to come in on Friday night. We're going to do a get together. We're going to have, chips and salsa and dip, and we're going to just meet and greet. It's going to be a lot of fun just to get reacquainted. The people that are coming, people can all come. We're welcoming anybody that wants to come. They can come and have a good time. Primarily, there's people that now have grandchildren. We've never met them, and just kind of bring that together, and we're going to have fun. And then on Saturday morning, we're going to have a men's town hall and breakfast, so we can talk men's talk, all men's talk. And then later in that evening on Saturday at 6:00, we're going to bring out the big guns. We're going to have all the songs a lot of songs from my mom and dad's album are going to be, we're going to be some of my brothers sing and sound just like my dad. And they're going to be singing a lot of his songs. And my sisters are going to be singing some of the parts that my sister Mel and Jill would sing. And then we have some other talented young people who are going to be bringing their talents, the young people that are the new generation of singers and songwriters. And Dale Rude and some other of our brothers that play the piano very much like my mother. They're going to be bringing those talents and those gifts, and we're just going to have a ball. And it's a potluck. So if you're bragging about your your baked beans or spaghetti or you better bring it.
Now's
It's
the
like
time to shine.
it's like one of those put up or shut up moments right there.
Yeah. To our director, any questions or comments at this point?
Not at the moment, no, sir.
But John, you do family workshops. Tell me about those. How does that work? What do you discuss? What's been the outcome of it?
It's been very powerful. Right now, our family is on a series devotional called "Rooting Out Relationship Killers." And
wait a minute, it's called "Rooting Out Relationship Killers." Wow.
Rooting
so
out.
Tell me about that, man.
Yeah, the rooting is not mine. I didn't write it. It's written by someone on YouVersion. It's on the YouVersion app, and basically what we do is we send it out and we go line by line, but we use the devotional as a guideline to help us kind of stay on the tracks. And it gives us an opportunity to create dialogue and deal with issues using that forum. And it's been very helpful to our family, and it's been a blessing. We have seen tremendous turnaround and forgiveness and love and sharing as a result of that small. I wish I knew the author. I wish I knew who to contact, because I'll tell you, they have done amazing things. And I've done that with men's ministries. We do a men's ministry every morning at 5:30, and we use a lot of those same devotionals to help a lot of the men and women and families around California.
So communication and dialogue can enhance unity, are you saying?
100%. What you thought you said, what you thought you heard, what you might have heard, what you meant to say, what you thought you meant to say, all of that is huge when it comes to say, let me understand what you meant. And then you have an understanding and you can move forward. And what happens is a lot of times we just don't know what someone meant, especially when you text. That's the worst type of communication.
When I was in college, Brother John, I had a lot of psychology classes. But the most important class I had was about listening. The class was how to listen.
Amazing.
And in communication, we've got to be able to discuss these things to work out these different activities. So again, what is the main topic that you all discuss, and who leads the topics? How do you all get across the different ideas? Is the same person lead the topics, or do you?
Not at all. What we did this time around is each one of us, I gave a topic to each one of my brothers and sisters. One was on a healthy me. One is on resolve. One is keep talking, how to talk, how to listen. And what we did is we allowed them to use their experience to bring it to the group. And it was so much more effective, because whatever they were working through at the time came out very passionate, and it was very effective.
Because they went through it and they're able to articulate it in a very special way.
In the now.
Wow. That's good to know. Friends, our time is gone again. And this is podcast as Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. Before I conclude, Brother John, we're going to have you on again in about 2 weeks, but what can we do better? Any feedback for Wounded Heart staff?
I just think that your platform, and as many people that need to hear it and see there are some people that are saying, I see you, I hear you now. And a lot of times people didn't know, is anybody even hearing me? And I think this particular platform, Brother Moon, that you have put together, that God's put on your heart, is I know you're clinical as well, and you deal with it on that level, but this forum will allow people to really begin to express that. And once they do, you'll see change in lots of lives. And I believe you're already doing that.
Well, we do thank you tonight. Also, our staff, Mr. Neal, Mr. Lolita, for helping out, and also our contributors. Wonderful to have them on. This is Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. This live podcast is by Church of God for Church of God. We're reaching out to you. If you've been wounded or disenfranchised, we are here to support you with dialogue, discussion, counseling continuum to be able to submit, sustain those three things: healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness in God's church. If you haven't been to church, it's time to go back. Come back to the Lord even tonight. Come back to him tonight. Tonight's your night. Thank you again, Brother John and our staff. We'll see you next week. May the Lord bless you.
Amen.